So last year, we began curriculum mapping for technology, and what everybody did was, month by month, people were talking about what skills they taught at different grades. And we did a great job on the tech skills. We looked at the ISTE standards, we looked at the New Jersey state standards. But the places that were really the weakest in our skills are what they call the 21st century skills: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. In May, we took a look at a handout about communication. And what I want to do for starters today is take a look at that again. So our process was kind of going through the standards. We even looked at something from TechWorks, which no longer exists, to get our ideas. And over the summer, a group of teachers, not always the same teacher, but a couple teachers at a time were coming in, and they tried to take a gigantic set of skills and more or less say, well, our opinion is this would be second or below. Our opinion would be this is fifth or below. So we still have to get final agreement, sometime in May. And the process is leading us to something like they have for the math. We're going to eventually, hopefully by June, get down to where we're going to group the skills by, we think, hopefully first grade will do this, hopefully second grade will do this, and we'll tie that content into the New Jersey technology standards. And the gospel values we'll put in there, but pretty much the gospel values are the same for English language arts and for math. So that's our goal. But today I want us to focus on communications and have some conversations between yourselves about where we would see things in our standards. So if you were here last May, you might remember this flow chart that I had given you a handout and we looked at. And what the flow chart did was it came from Microsoft Partners in Learning. And it's out there for anybody to use as they see fit. And it said when you're talking about communication skills, the first thing you have to think about are students required to work in groups and pairs with the technology. And that won't go on our standards because you wouldn't have a skill that says students can't work in groups and pairs. So I'm going to pass by that one. So here's the question that I'd like you to think about, and we'll try to sort of circle it. What grade do you think that students should at least be required to work in pairs or groups to complete a project using technology? So I'd like you all to just throw out for us, what is a thing you do in technology at a pre-K to 2 level, or a 3 to 5 level, or a 6 to 8 level that requires students to work in pairs or groups to complete a technology project? So pre-K to 2, does anybody have a thing that you can think about that you have the pre-K students or the second grade students work in pairs or groups to complete a tech project?
We did iMovie.
iMovie?
And we just made trailers. So we kept it simple. We gave them the top picture, we gave them everything. Like the door on the platform, and stuff that related to just something that was perfect.
Okay, so that's
Pretty simple.
a nice simple, and they did have to work in pairs to accomplish it.
We're just working right now doing a collaborative slides with second grade on the animal care project.
Okay. And so
I
they
think
have
it was
to.
an insight. Bite slide.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
no. That's a new one to me.
It's a really simple.
That sounds cool. Like slide. Anybody hear of that one? Okay. And that's an online thing, I guess? I'll have to check it out.
They've all been working on it at the same time.
So it's like a Google Docs
There's a safe,
kind of
there's a
idea.
safe Google, they can do YouTube videos too.
No kidding.
And they have symbols and clip art, and
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's,
I can look it up because I'm just really.
Yeah. So that's bit,
I'm gonna look it
bite,
up.
bite slide, biteslide.com. That's the cool. And so, again, that's the
Yeah, that's
second below that you're doing. Okay, that's what it is. Anybody else can think about something where kids are required at pre-K to 2 to work in groups and pairs where they're required to complete a technology project?
I did a pre-K one also.
Wow.
With Pebble Go.
Pebble Go.
So
I've
it's
heard
a
of that.
subscription database, and it's really cheap, and it's fantastic, and they can listen to it.
Ooh,
And
okay.
so in teams, they would listen to the article I give them, and then they had to illustrate something from that.
Okay.
And they did it in teams.
So that's the requirement. And I've done it with kids with like kid pics where I'll have a line drawn on the page and somebody has to draw the right side of the picture. And then they swap chairs and then the other kid completes it. So there's definitely a possibility.
Bite slide, $96.
No.
You're using it for free though. Wow. So there's always a trick. Yeah, there's always a trick to finding the free things. So what I'll do and what Deb can do is email each other, and when we find the free link, maybe Deb will put it up in Edmodo for us.
Sure.
Yeah. And also we have our Digo group, so we can put it there as well. How about 3 to 5?
Before, I'm not doing
No,
anything
that's
like that, but this is my first year teaching technology.
Right.
Before that. The one thing I noticed though so far is that the further down you go in the grades, the more disparity there is among the kids and what they know
Okay.
in terms of computer skills.
Right.
I'm thinking that pre-K to 2 is probably where we need the most collaboration, so they can help each other out and help each other grow a little bit. Because there are kids in first grade, they can do anything on a computer,
Absolutely.
and then you get the others who don't know how to turn it on.
Right.
And that disparity seems to narrow as we go up the grades. Those all tend to be more level
Right.
in their skill set.
Yeah, because we were talking about some little guys who don't even know the right left mass button.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first year
Yeah.
I ever had. I already, and I am so far behind in my curriculum. Yes. The idea of clicking, click on this. It's hard, because this is what they want to do, they want everything on the screen because they
So, but this is what I had to do. I mean, because then I had a whole other issue because I was dreading the whole summer because my son is now from little building into the kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
And but he actually showed me, but I was like, you're still getting a check minus. And I told him, Daddy, when I went home, like, your son did this, I'm talking to you right now, so I said, your son has a test, he's the only one who doesn't have to do this class. And I told the bigger kids, I was like, if I'm gonna do that to my child, that the rules for me, that's how I operate, I'm sorry. You know, and it just looked at me like, they're gonna great for me. This is the 8th grade.
No, it's always odd having your own
But the
child.
kindergarten though, it's hard because you have some of them who are on it, and then I had to change my whole way of doing it. So now I have some of them in the room with me,
Right.
and if I present the lesson and they can show me, so like with the mouse, if they can show me they can do it, why am I looking back?
Right.
As long as I can monitor everybody, so I've still got my little group over here, and slowly but surely they're peeling off.
Right.
So then we can move on to paint, then we can move on to do what we need to do with the mouth. I still got my little group over here,
Right.
and I'm not trying to make them feel, and they don't feel,
Right.
they feel like they're getting one-on-one. And then the kids who are over there, they're like, okay, well, they're doing their own thing, and they're on to the next thing.
Right.
You know, and then I've incorporated something on Friday to some of the libraries that I've incorporated library, and I'm like, but so we read a book, and then the thing was, what's your favorite illustration, favorite part of the book?
Yeah.
And I read the book and just had them go do that, and then I had to switch gears like midway. Because I presented paint in years before, and it was fine, and everybody went and did it, and like more than half the class was like, it's broken.
And like Don was saying too, it is nice where you start finding the kids who are strong and say, you're so-and-so's buddy,
Yeah.
and, you
I
know,
don't, I
yes,
didn't have to compare at this point.
which is
That's how
nice.
bad it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, that's a great example. Yes,
When
but
the kids first start paint, if I see what they can do. And then I kind of share them, so now this is like kindergarten. And I let them do, in pairs, tic-tac-toe, because they have to draw the lines, and if one of them can't do it as well,
that's a nice
then I
idea.
help. And I don't let them use the lines, I make them draw the X's.
So do we think that this should be by second grade? Kids should be required to work in pairs and groups? That's the question, is the requirement. Right.
I think
And
it's
so-
really great to do it, because it also teaches what they do.
Right, and it's sort of that first start. And so, you know, this is something we have to think about. Is this a by second grade? There's somehow required. But then let's move up to the second. And you know, like last year I had shown you the Little Explorer's Picture Dictionary. And that was a time when I paired second graders and first graders. Here's the worksheet, you're looking for, here's the clue, and they navigated together. So being required to communicate with each other to complete technology doesn't have to be any more than, you know, pairing together. So that's, and then by 3rd to 5th grade, is that where most of you feel that you're doing more? So for now, I'll put a tick for this group, because this is probably a 3rd through 8th grade scale, okay. And then, now we're gonna move up to the next spot. I'm just gonna insert okay, so then we move up to the next level where, and this could still be a 3rd through 5th grade skill, the students are required to work in pairs or groups and have shared responsibility to complete the project. And if I look at the wording of this on the page that we had looked at, where this came from, what they were talking about required to work is that when they're working in level 2 and they're working in pairs or groups to give each other feedback or discuss an issue in a small group. Perhaps use Skype to interview students in another town. Use shared OneNote or Google Docs to share story drafts and give each other feedback. But in order to be in this level, they have to have shared responsibility. So, yeah, so which one just by hands, do most of you think that would be a 3 to 5 shared responsibility? And that would be thumbs up? Or do you mostly think that's a 6 to 8 thumbs down?
Can it span 2 groups or?
Can it span 2 groups? I guess what we're saying in the curriculum map is that the student will be able to
Do it by that grade?
by 5th grade. So they would be able to work in a pair group and have shared responsibility by 5th grade. So by 5th grade is thumbs up, by 8th grade is thumbs down. So this seems like a 5th also. Okay. So now the next level up from there is students are required to work in pairs and groups and have shared responsibilities and make substantive decisions together. And the way that they define substantive decisions is that, let's see where we are. Okay. They're making substantive decisions when they are shaping the content process or product, where they have to actively resolve important issues. So they're using their knowledge of an issue to make a decision, that affects the stance on a topic they have, that they plan what to do, when to do it, what tools they will use, or the roles of people in their group, that they interact with one another to jointly arrive at a decision, and they don't come to the teacher to make the decision for you. 6 to 8, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. And finally, the next question becomes, is this next one a 6 to 8 thing, or is this really high school? The highest level of communication is the required to work in groups or pairs, they have shared responsibilities, they're making substantive decisions, and the product is interdependent. And so, in order to be interdependent, all the following must be true. The product shows evidence from all group members. Each contribution is essential to the final product. And that the work they produce is a coherent whole at the end. It doesn't look like Frankenstein where there's an arm tacked on here and a leg tacked on there. So do we think that an interdependent project where every group member contributes and every contribution is essential or it would be the same product, and then it doesn't look like a Frankenstein monster? So is that like an 8th grade thing? Or is it? I think so too, but
Not much before that.
not much before.
Maybe not.
But again, we're
It
talking.
depends on if it's at some grade.
And you're very right. It really does depend on your 8th grade, because there's years where you'll have a group where you're just happy that they show up. But on the whole, we could say that we think by 8th grade they should do that. Okay. And we're going to kind of just keep coming back to this idea, but there are other kinds of communication that I want you to begin thinking about, and I'm going to post this question. Every time we get together, I always have a feedback form where I ask you for what did you bring to your school last month, how was the presentation workshop for you, was it excellent and fair for? I'm going to ask you, do you think that there is a communication skill that we must, by 2nd, 5th, or 8th grade have in relationship to mass communication? I know my son last year, when he got to filling out scholarships, some scholarships required you to submit a video. And so that's college though. So these are high school kids. But do we think that there is a valuable skill in the 2nd, 5th, or 8th grade band that we should be teaching them some kind of podcasting or video creation skill set? And again, it's so hard to say definitely because some schools don't even have a single thing that would let them do that. And this has to speak to us as a group, this technology curriculum now. So just because we leave a skill off doesn't mean that you shouldn't or couldn't do it. It just means that we're not saying every school must by 8th grade.
Would you consider using like Photo Story 3, for instance, which my kids are using right now in 5th grade?
Yeah.
To tell a story through pictures and music and everything. And then they create a video from that. Would that be considered part of
Mass communication. That definitely would. Because mass communication is any time that you have a video or an audio communicating some content.
And I would have posted that video now on, let's say, Share TV or
Right.
YouTube or whatever.
Right.
And the parents can view whatever. Then we are mass communicating.
Absolutely.
Right. Then I say you should do that, right? I mean,
Right. And so I want you, when you get the form from me, when you get the survey, put your thoughts out there, and I'm going to gather everybody's thoughts together. And
because
that's
that's something you can do with regular research.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm getting at. Like you don't need a video camera necessarily.
No, you don't need a video camera necessarily, right? And I think almost every school, even the most technology-poor school, does have an iPad or two that you could make an iMovie trailer does have an old machine that has Windows Movie Maker that you can save. So that's one thought I want you to think about when you get the survey. And the other is computer-mediated communication. So do we think by 2nd, 5th, or 8th, students should participate in Skype calls between classrooms or between Catholic grammar schools in the Archdiocese of Newark or with the greater world? Do we think that they should understand how to use something like today's Meet, like we used last year, to communicate with text? Is it important that they begin to understand how, when they're using computer-mediated communication, how does their avatar and choice of avatar represent who they are and what they are? So those are the kind of things that we're talking about with computer-mediated communication. And do we think it belongs somewhere in our tech map by 8th grade or not? So I want you to think about that. And interpersonal communication, how is it that you talk to one another through computers? We have a little bit in the computer in the tech curriculum map about email. And, one of the words that I came across was, what's a kid's bedside manner when they're working with another person? Do they make them feel like, oh, I'm stupid? Or do they know that everybody's at a different level? And so that interpersonal communication using technology, how would we want to reflect that in our technology curriculum map? And the idea of presence and trust, we got into a little bit with our digital citizenship, but we talked about this last year, kids playing Minecraft, and how do they know they're working with a grown-up or with a kid? And a lot of kids now have Instagram accounts in 2nd grade. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have told me, oh my gosh, my 2nd graders have Instagram accounts. And, when I look at this list of people following me personally on Instagram, I know them very well, and either I met them at a conference or I have their cell phone number, but I know them. And it's the same thing with Facebook. The people who are in my Facebook friends list, I have, as a grown-up, if you're a tech teacher somewhere in the world, I follow you. But again, still, most of the people on my list, I've talked to them in conferences. So, what do we want about presence and trust in our technology curriculum map? Probably coming under digital citizenship.